بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين. Just before we move on, just one thing to clarify, which was a little bit confusing and I don't think we mentioned it, is while fasting, the difference between making a mistake and forgetting. So whenever somebody forgets because of the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, anything which is forgotten is always forgiven and it doesn't break the fast, and you carry on with your fast. Even if a person was to do the most explicit of the three things which we're not allowed to do, even if somebody was to engage in those kind of relationships, then a person's fast will still not break, as long as he was never aware of the fact. He's just completely forgotten that he was fasting. And obviously sometimes some of the examples we gave were mistakes. So for example, if the muazzin does the adhan for Maghrib 2 minutes early, and then the whole of Colchester breaks their fast, then unfortunately, because that's a mistake and nobody's forgotten, everybody knows they're meant to be fasting, but because it's a mistake, then that fast will have to be made up with one make-up. As well as also when we're doing wudu, sometimes we have to put water in the mouth. So when you put water in the mouth, if we put it too hard and we know we're fasting and then it goes down the throat, then again because it's a mistake and we know we're fasting, then this will also break the fast. So it's important to be careful with these kind of things, with the end of fast time, the beginning of fast time, and also with the force with which we put water in the mouth. However, if somebody forgets, then obviously that will never break the fast. And even if a person eats a whole meal, and obviously on the first or second day of Ramadan, a person wakes up and has breakfast, has his coffee, whatever he's used to doing, and he has that whole cup, finishes the cup, and completely forgotten. Afterwards he remembers, then his fast will be fine. He carries on for the whole day. That fast counts. And there's no diminishing of the value of that fast. He should carry on and finish that fast. It's as if nothing has happened. So that's just one thing, to differentiate between when a person forgets and when a person makes a mistake. So these are the two things. A mistake is from our own behalf when we are aware that we're fasting, and forgetting is when a person that is not aware that they're fasting. So after finishing the fast itself, in the month of Ramadan, we also have the salahs of Taraweeh, which is very important to keep in mind, and they have a bit of fiqh behind it. It's very simple, basic stuff. Most of us will be aware of the basic fiqh behind Taraweeh. In the Hanafi madhab, generally we agree that the rakats of Taraweeh are 20, and this is something which is passed down from the madhab. But also within the world today especially, we have about three main views with regards to the amount of rakats to Taraweeh. Number one is obviously 20. Number two is 8 rakats, which is a very common view. And the third rakat, which is more common than the 8 rakat, this is one of the most common views actually, that there's no fixed number at all of the amount of salahs you're meant to pray. Also Imam Malik, he actually says 36 rakats as well. So there's 4 views, but then based on these narrations, the one which takes everything into consideration is to say that there's no fixed number, that there's no amount at all. But generally when we're praying 20, and we've been praying 20 for many years, and the establishment is 20, it's also very important to keep in mind that if a person takes this view into consideration that there's no fixed number, then whether he prays 8 or 20, he'll just realize that praying 20 is obviously better than praying 8. So this is a very simple way of keeping everyone together. Sometimes what we find in Ramadan is, what happens is certain masajid, like the masajid that pray 20, and they support, personally, people of the Hanafi madhab, we support praying 20. So then we find that some people, they dedicate the whole of Ramadan to emphasizing this point, and they'll bring all of the narrations about 20, and they'll say how bad everybody that doesn't pray 20 is. This is a very, very evil practice really, because it's just not necessary. Some people, as we know in the university, for example, they pray 8. So we're not going to go and say that they are worse than us, they are very bad people there who pray 8 rakats. We accept that we pray 20, they pray 8, and these are the differences of opinion. This is the diversity we have in the madhab. And the reason all this debate is here is because at the time of the Prophet ﷺ himself, Taraweeh itself was not actually established as a practice, and the Prophet ﷺ himself, only for the first 3 days he came out and actually prayed the Taraweeh with the people. And generally the Jama'ah was not established, and actually praying any kind of rakats was not established with the people. The number of rakats he prayed, we don't really know how many the Prophet ﷺ prayed with this Taraweeh. Nobody mentions the number, it was just Taraweeh. And then after this, obviously Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, again, it wasn't established. At the time of Umar radiallahu anhu, we find the narration. So obviously Islam was passed down mainly by action, which is why we're very supportive of the 20, because generally if we believe in action and Islam being passed down from our forefathers the way that Islam is meant to be preserved, then everybody's been essentially passing down 20 without questioning. So that's what we believe was coming down right from the beginning. However, to prove that is very difficult. So then to force that on somebody else is very difficult. But if we're happy with that, then that's very good. So Umar radiallahu anh, he came at his khilafah and he saw everybody in the masjid and they were all praying Taraweeh separately. So he said it would be nice if everyone come together. And then this narration is this narration has many variations. Some say that he collected everyone together on 20 rakats, some say 8 rakats, some say 16 rakats, some say 12 rakats. There's so many variations, and because of the variety of hadith we have, this is why one of the most easy opinions to have is that there's no fixed rakat for Taraweeh. This is a very simple way to have, and then everyone that prays, they pray however they believe that is the best way to pray. So Umar radiallahu anhu, he came and he collected everyone together on a certain number of rakats. It's disputed. Obviously the people who believe it's 20 now, they all bring all of the narrations of 20 and say, look, this is true. The people who believe it's 8, Shaykh Albani writes a whole book, and the basis of the book is actually this hadith, where the hadith where Umar radiallahu anhu came, and he says that Shaykh Albani says that they established everyone on 8 rakats, and then obviously the people, other scholars say that he established everyone on 20 rakats. But both of the narrations are there. They're both not particularly sahih narrations. Both have problems in the chains. So based on this, we all just we try and live and let live. This is a very important part of Ramadan. Some people, they dedicate Ramadan to these kind of masail, that we're going to refute everyone who doesn't pray 20. And as individuals, it's fine. We can make it fard on ourselves. We can make it necessary on ourselves to pray 20, which is very good. This is what part of nadhr is, that we make something fard on ourselves. We can make 20 fard on ourselves. This is beautiful. But to make it fard on anyone else is not possible. Obviously, even within the Hanafi madhab itself, Taraweeh is considered to be sunnatul mu'akkada. So the 20 rakats are sunnah. So now when something's at this level, it's not possible to force this onto somebody else. As we know, when something's haram and fard, then we have a right. If something's wajib, we have some right. If something's makruh tahrimi, we have some right to tell somebody to stop. But when it comes below that, when it comes into the sunnah category, because of the level of the authenticity and the way the narrations are, it's not really our right to go around forcing this on everybody else. Whoever comes, it's very good. Whoever doesn't come, it's not great. Also, sometimes we may have heard people trying to refute this all the time, always saying that people who pray 8 are wrong, people who pray 12 are very, very wrong. But what we have to understand is that none of this is bid'ah. All of this is established from some kind of narration. And some people go extreme. Some of the other group, they go extreme as well and say that everybody who prays 20 is doing a bid'ah. But the scholars of those people generally don't say this. Shaykh Albani, for example, in the book that he writes, which he dedicates to establishing 8 rakats as the real amount, even there he writes that reading 20 would not be a bid'ah. He shows istihsan, which is our Hanafi, one of the principles of our Hanafi fiqh. So he shows that because so many people pray 20, we're not going to say that there's anything wrong with it. So if we all develop this mindset that we're not going to refute other people, and other people are not going to refute us, they have their evidences. Obviously they have the evidences for the 8 rakats. We have our evidences for 20 rakats, many evidences. Now today, as you've probably noticed, I've not actually mentioned any evidences. This is not the point of today. I don't want to prove 20 to you. Alhamdulillah, I know most people here are very happy with 20, and we all agree on that, and we all mutmain. So I'm not going to present the 24 hadith which come regarding 20 rakats and proving how amazing 20 rakats are, because alhamdulillah, if we're praying 20 is great. But what's important to understand is that we don't feel that anybody who doesn't pray 20 is now not a good person compared to us. What the people who establish 20 often do is they claim lots of ijma, which is what we call a consensus of the whole ummah. Now this is something which is possible, but it's almost impossible to prove. Ijma means a consensus of every single scholar in the world. So what they claim is that from the time of Umar radiallahu anh, everybody's been praying 20. Now it may be true. It's quite likely it's true as well, because we're still praying 20. The most of the world prays 20, and it is possible that this is true. But to prove this from me to Umar radiallahu anh that this is the case is almost impossible, So now we can't prove our ijma, although we believe in this kind of ijma. And there's other ijma that the Sahaba all came and agreed on 20. Again, this is not proven at all, that all the Sahaba, it's impossible to prove. Like I said, the narrations which come that the Sahaba prayed 20 all have some kalam in them, which is why the evidence of the people who pray 8 stands up. And the evidence is not, nobody says that these people are complete idiots. They're very intelligent people who come and they look at the evidence and they make this decision. So also some people say that people who say 8, they all call Umar radiallahu an a bid'ati, na'udhu billah. Obviously this is again not true, because they base the 8 also on what Umar radiallahu anhu done. So when Umar radiallahu anhu came, he prayed, they believe that he prayed 8. So this is why they say that 8 is necessary. They believe in the action of Umar radiallahu anh. So to say that they believe in the hadith of Bukhari, which is about tahajjud and all this kind of thing, this is something which is just, we have to credit everybody with intelligence. If somebody's a scholar and has studied Islam for 10, 15, 20 years, we should credit them with intelligence. We should credit them with the fact that they've understood Islam to a much better level than I have, and most of us here have. So when we credit them with that, we realize that they have the evidences and they believe the evidences, and obviously people refuted them, and then they had refutation as well. But again, this is not our job to get engaged in this kind of thing. Another thing in Taraweeh is that we try and finish the Quran. This is something which is, again, this is more of a recent phenomenon. Nobody claims that this is right from the beginning. But again, nowadays we've put this in the mustahab box. So the Taraweeh itself, 20 rakats sunnatul mu'akkada, and the finishing the Quran is a lower level, is mustahab, because there's nothing specific to establish this really. However, one of the hadith which is used is that the Prophet ﷺ, in the month of Ramadan, Jibreel alayhi salam would come and repeat the whole Quran to the Prophet ﷺ. So this is the main evidence presented for this. And obviously the big evidence is actually that now we're doing it, we should keep it going. If we've started such a big thing, alhamdulillah, everyone has a chance to listen to the whole Quran. Why would you want to stop such a good thing? And when something is good and is proven, then you should always keep it going. You should never say that this is not good. Again, because it is mustahab, very important to remember is that we can make it fard on ourselves, we can make it sunnah on ourselves and say that I will do this every year for the whole year, but we can't force it on somebody else, especially when something's mustahab. We definitely cannot force this on somebody else. And also with this obviously comes, alhamdulillah, in this masjid, especially in the first Taraweeh, we have very nice, slow, clear recitation, because obviously the point of the dawrah, of listening to the whole Quran, is to be able to think and ponder and properly contemplate over the meaning of the Quran. And that's the point of the Quran. That's the only reason that the whole Quran is completed. If you're reading so fast that we can't understand, then that destroys the point. Then even if you're praying 20 rakats, some people, they emphasize so much on 20 rakats, but when they read the Quran, they read so fast that nobody can understand what they're saying. So the speed and clarity of the Quran is very, very important. Also, just from history, from many of our great scholars, Ibn al-Arabi, rahimahullah, when we done the tafsir of Surah Ikhlas, we mentioned this, that when in Jerusalem, they were praying the 20 rakat Taraweeh, and in every rakat, from the beginning of Ramadan all the way to the end, they would just read Surah Ikhlas in every rakat of the 20, and everybody would sit, because obviously, now this may seem strange to us, very strange, but if we think in all of our rakats, we also listen to Surah Al-Fatiha as well, which is every same thing again. We may think, what's the point? Same thing. But every rakat we listen to Surah Fatiha to understand and contemplate on the meaning. And then Ibn Arabi mentions that the Imam in Jerusalem, in Baytul Maqdis, he was reciting Surah Ikhlas in every rakat. So where this narration comes from, there's many examples of this, of how the people of the past would pick certain things to recite in the Taraweeh. So there's different things, there's a different scope of things that can be read. And alhamdulillah, here we have the most hard thing, hard for the Imam, hard for everyone, which is to pray the whole Quran, and this is obviously very, very rewarding. And also it's a chance to listen to the whole Quran behind the Imam as well. And obviously Ramadan as well. These are all small evidences which lead up to why we should keep this going. And obviously Ramadan, being the month of the Quran, is the best time to spend continuously making sure that we recite the Quran, listen to the Quran. And this is one of the best reasons why Taraweeh becomes a whole spectacle as well. And by finishing the Quran and listen to it, we get the benefit of, after that, on the 29th night, when everybody finishes, we get the chance to have that night, and the spirituality we feel on that night is something we all feel ourselves, and we all feel a sense of achievement. The Imam on his own level, and everybody behind him, they all feel their own sense of achievement, that I managed to last 29 nights and I came every night and I prayed 20 rakats. It's an amazing achievement, mashallah. So this is something which, if the khatam wasn't taking place, then we wouldn't be able to have this chance. So we're very, very lucky, alhamdulillah, and we should try and keep this going and encourage everybody to come to this, but also keep in mind that if somebody doesn't, then they are entitled not to come as well. So the main thing is, just like we mentioned after Fajr today, that keeping everybody together, keeping unity, regardless of the actions which people do, we make sure that everybody is united and we work together to achieve things. And sometimes we may do different things, but this is the diversity in Islam. Islam has a lot of diversity. We have to appreciate that as well. So this way, when we appreciate that everybody has the evidences and they're acting on the evidences, this way we can appreciate this. So I make dua Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives me and all of us the ability to understand and act upon what's been said.
As regards breaking the fast, in order to become absolutely sure you are on time, that sometimes I'm at about 6 clocks at my house, hardly 2 clocks coincide with the timing as well. So in order to make absolutely sure that you are on time, wait or delay the Islam for a couple of minutes.
You could do, but better than that is you choose 1 clock, or you choose the most accurate clock. So nowadays, because obviously most people have phones, so phones are automatically...
Does it matter if you wait a couple of minutes more?
No, it doesn't matter, no. Not a couple of minutes. No. Yeah, of course. Iftar is not... Some people, they're ready. It's almost like a race that they're ready with as soon as the adhan goes, but it's not that necessary.
So in the comment, this is on the safe side?
Safe side, yeah, 2 minutes. It depends on the clocks. But ideally, because nowadays we're in a time where most clocks are radio controlled. For example, on the laptop and on the phone, they're all radio controlled. So then, now not radio controlled, but the phone is controlled by the internet. So it's always the same. So if you use 1 clock and use that for Sahri and Iftar, then that's the best way to do it as well.
You mentioned one thing, if you are watching call the azan 2 minutes before, do you have to everybody have to do the fasting again?
Yeah, because it's mistake.
Yes.
Imam, is there a great deal of difference between night prayer, Taraweeh, Tahajjud?
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't mention that.
Yeah.
So Tahajjud is recommended generally, isn't it? 8 rakats is the sunnah. The Prophet would always pray 8 rakats in Ramadan, outside of Ramadan. But that's always, we should be praying that. So in Ramadan, the thing is, because in the Hanafi madhab, we're not meant to do a jama'ah for Tahajjud. You're not meant to announce it and call everyone, generally. There's some leeway as well. So obviously, from the 3 scholars we have, some of them give leeway in doing this. But generally, because, especially in the winter, in the summer, there's just not enough time to do it in the masjid. But at home, if you get a chance, that's great. So obviously in Ramadan, in the summer, it's actually easier, because we wake up for suhoor. And then if you take out 10 minutes, it doesn't have to be 8 rakats. If you can do 4 rakats, 2 rakats, and dua is very, very important, because Allah says that He comes down to the first sky and He waits for everyone with His hands spread out, and He says, please, or whoever asks me, I will accept their dua. So this is a very, very good time.
Taraweeh 8 rakats. You call it more than that.
Taraweeh 20 rakats.
No. Tahajjud.
You can do as much as you want. Sunnah is
5 minutes later, make sure that
The Prophet did 12.
Sometimes, there's different narrations. So you can do as much as you want. No one's saying that. But mainly, is very, very common narrations that used to do 8 and 3 with 11. That's what I told you. 2, 4. Yes, you can do 2, 4, 8.
If you have time to do.
Of course. Yeah. Dua is important as well. So then you can carry on the dua after Fajr time starts. Today after Fajr, I said to talk to the person next to you for 1 minute. You should talk for 2 hours.
Well, we did carry on the
No. Just stop it.
but it's up to you.